Hello, listeners, and welcome to Roundtable 3 of the Mad Scientist Roundtable. Yeah, I am one of your hosts, Chris Cogswell, and I am joined by...
the other host, Marie Mayhew.
Yeah, cool. All right, we have a very packed show today.
Jam-packed, people.
Really jam-packed. So, first off, I just want to make some... I want to say thank you to everyone who's listened so far to the roundtables and to the older episodes. So we kind of split things up into the roundtables, which are a little bit lighter and like less heavy sciencey, kind of like me droning on about
less
stuff.
on the thing that knowledge thing, less on knowing things.
Yeah,
it's
talking about stuff, guessing.
You're doing you. Just making shit up.
There's some science. There is some science, but not
really. But
smaller episodes we can't get in onto like the regular schedule, or wouldn't really make like a good full series or a good full episode on their own, but little things that are interesting or listener questions and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited to say that we've hit 10,000 downloads. We're actually at 10,063 now.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
10,063?
Yeah.
Damn,
man.
People?
It's badass.
I'll tell you what, that's badass, sir.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of badass.
It's pretty great. And we're kind of like, I don't want to say blowing up on Twitter because we have like 200 followers or something.
Trending.
But yeah, we're trending in a very small, the paranormal with scientific tinges enthusiast on Twitter platform.
Yes. Heavy niche categories.
Yeah, very, very.
We're huge with the niche.
You know what?
Huge.
We got stuck on our deserted island. We evolved to fit that niche, and now we're just thriving.
We know our people.
And as soon as too many humans show up, we will invariably be decimated like every other species that manages to fit a niche.
Like every other dodo will just be like, hi.
Seriously.
What's that sharp thing in your hand?
Seriously.
Do you have food?
We're going the way of the dodo. So this episode, so I'm sure listeners have figured out that a regular schedule is really hard to stick to. So this last week, I actually had a surprise book chapter thrown at me. So I spent the week, I spent the last 2 weeks fervently writing and editing and whatever. So I wasn't able to put out a full episode, but that full episode is coming. And it's coming quite soon. Marie has done some amazing research on Morgellons disease. I caught up on Riverdale on CW, just in case anybody's curious. Netflix got some good stuff. Does it? Okay, that's good.
I haven't been writing or reading, or I don't have any books. I'm not writing any books. In fact, I'm de-evolving.
Nice. Oh, good. Devo is a great band, so maybe we can join. That'll be good. Yo, Devo, if you're listening, hit me up.
Yes.
All right.
Out there.
So we have 5 big topics this episode. We got Pringles, which was a question from a listener. We got a really cool story that Marie had. We got the flat Earth.
Let's not oversell it, but yes.
Oversell it. The flat Earth theory, which also was a questioner, a listener question, a questioner listen. That's what I was about to say. Solid.
Excellent.
A listener question. And then we also have clean coal. Something I keep promising we're going to do, and we keep not doing it. And we're going to do it today. This episode is going to be probably a little bit longer because of all those topics. But yeah, we're going to get right into it. So let's do this episode.
Welcome to the Mad Scientist Roundtable.
Clean coal. Finally, because we have it solved.
Yeah.
Here's what
solved.
Here's what the current administration doesn't know. Chris has solved it. He has clean coal.
I have clean coal.
He's right now. You guys can't see him, but he's sitting on a pile of what looks like ice cubes. It's not. It's clean coal.
So, oh man. All right. I actually, you know what? Let's do clean coal. We're just gonna go right into it.
We're just jinxed it.
We're just getting into it. I know we had this
right.
we had this nice
nice
plan
Buckle
in,
down.
but then it just got we've gone at it. We've gone off the rails already. We're whatever, 5 minutes in. All right. So clean coal. So like you said, Marie, the idea of clean coal is often pushed out there by Republicans in recent years. And on the face of it, so it's interesting, right? So clean coal, this section is going to be a lot of personal knowledge, I guess you'd say. Like, not personal knowledge, like it's knowledge I've gotten from other people. Obviously, you don't just like a priori come up with knowledge on something like clean coal. I didn't invent clean coal. But it's from my job, basically, right? So my research interests are in petrochemical cleanup. So like, you burn a fuel or you're making a green, petrochemicals come up with a huge amount of chemicals that we don't even think of, right? So without burning of oil and not burning of oil, but without refining oil, we wouldn't have plastic. We wouldn't have a lot of fibers and stuff like polymers, right? So pretty much all of polymerization wouldn't be possible without petrochemicals. It just we would not have polymer science without it. Right. And so there's a lot of research going on to find like natural sources of polymer material. Right. So, and the reason why it's so useful.
Cornstarch.
Well, so the reason it's so useful is the reason that it's so important, I guess, or the reason that petrochemicals are so useful in that field. And they're also used to make all kinds of other chemicals as well, like solvents and whatever, is that petrochemicals are made up of a really long chain of what's known as hydrocarbons. Right. So it's just carbon is like a backbone and then hydrogen off of it. And all of that carbon, it's hard to start with bare carbon and get to something else. So like if you start with a carbon atom, this is actually that's totally not true. Carbon loves to bond with other stuff. Actually,
that's my job.
It's like the first thing you'll learn of in organic chemistry is that carbon loves to bond with stuff. But I guess what I'm saying is that the upgrading of carbon into useful chemicals can be quite difficult. So like a big carbon source that we want to use is CO2, right? We'd love to capture CO2 and then use it to make something else. That is not really viable at this point because we like the barrier, the energy barrier to actually do that is huge. So like you need to input way more CO2 from burning of fuel to make the energy needed to convert CO2 to make it useful. It's like, I mean, there's nothing really that explains it. It's almost like a pyramid scheme. You put in money to try to get money out, but the money you put in is too much, right? So I spent $500 on these magical berries, and I sold $300 worth. I made $300. Well, no, you spent $200, right? It's like the same idea with CO2.
So you're saying clean coal's a Ponzi scheme?
No, so okay. So that's the difference, right?
I'm not disagreeing with
Not disagreeing. Now, what clean coal is the attempt to continue burning coal as a fuel source in a way that doesn't create lots of pollution. The problem with that is that clean coal on its baseline, like the type of clean coal that's being talked about on like TV and whatever, is coal that is clean of sulfur and nitrogen compounds. So you remember a couple, like I'd say probably when I was a kid, so like 1990s, whatever, acid rain was a big thing. Everyone was terrified of acid rain, and it has caused damage to like historical architecture and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But like I remember there was a Simpsons episode where Homer goes outside, it's acid raining, and there's a squirrel like on fire in his backyard, and he goes out and he's like, acid rain, and he's like, smacking on his head. Acid rain is caused by sulfur in fuel. So sulfur in fuel becomes SOx, SOx. Which is sulfur oxide. So like SO2, SO3, SO4. And then these get taken up into the clouds. And what does sulfur become in the clouds? It becomes sulfuric acid. And then it rains sulfuric acid. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to make another Simpsons reference, but you know what? Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Right. So it's like, that's a huge problem, but it's one that we've dealt with really, really quite well. We found really effective ways to capture sulfur, and nitrogen, another compound that makes nitrogen makes like particulate matter and NOx. So it's like the counterpart to SOx. We found really good ways to capture that from fuel when we burn it. Right.
Yeah.
And not to be
dismissive, but now acid rain almost seems quaint. That seems like a nice problem to have.
So that's the funny thing, right?
In some ways,
when acid,
you can define it, know what it is, and hey, how about some global warming?
So here's the funny thing, right? When acid rain was a problem, when it was like a really debated political problem, lawmakers and scientists kind of got together and were like, well, we can solve this. And the oil companies got involved in like coal companies and whatever, and we developed the technology and we took care of it, right? The problem, so clean coal is a thing in the sense that we don't have sulfur and nitrogen compounds coming out of like exhaust ports anymore.
Burning squirrels in our backyard.
Yeah.
No,
so
thank God.
So it is. So listen, like, not to take away from clean coal, it is a big deal that we were able to do that. The problem is that when people today think of what a pollutant is, they think of CO2. They think of greenhouse gases. But when you burn any fossil fuel, you release CO2. It is necessary. Mm-hmm. It has to happen. There's no, that is the chemical reaction that is burning. That is what we want to make the energy, is the conversion of long chain carbons into CO2 and water. Right? So clean coal on its output, like on the base of it, can never, if we're burning coal, we're producing CO2. We have to be. Mm-hmm. The question, though, is can we have technologies where we either capture that CO2, which is kind of the work that I do, or can we recycle it? So in other words, can we, like we were talking at the beginning, use CO2 as a source for carbon to make things like polymers and other chemicals and whatever?
Which we need.
Right, which we need, and which is the kind of research that the EPA was funding until Donald Trump was like, clean coal.
Until about 24 hours ago, and then fuck that.
Yeah, so like,
why military? We need some military.
Oh yeah, that's always fun. So that's the interesting thing, right? And that's kind of a funny thing though too, right? Like the military and like military budgeting and stuff does it like so this is the thing, right? It does make a buttload of good, like if we were developing the military in the way of like military technology or whatever, I'd kind of be into it. Like not in the sense of like we're developing the new bomb or something.
No, but the next wave of what military is going to be.
Yeah, like that's always
is much more technology.
Yeah,
it's like much more Stuxnet cyber attack.
Right. So there's actually a really, really interesting there's actually a really interesting lab at Northeastern that, and I've seen them at a couple of other universities as well, where their project is to detect explosives in various like solid media. So it's like basically the idea is if someone like, puts an IUD underground or something, or even if they have it like on their person, right now, the only way to tell that might be there is to do like an invasive pat down or something, right? Mm-hmm. Or that scanner thing at the airport.
Or they have dogs.
Or dogs, right? Sniffer dogs or whatever.
Which is amazing.
So the idea is, can we use like imaging? So can we if we send a same like that stuff they always use on those shows on the History Channel where they do like ground penetrating radar or whatever, right? It's the same kind of
that shit. That's good.
It's
those are my best shows. Those are my shows.
It's the same kind of idea. Like, can we develop ground penetrating radar that would be specifically targeting explosives or something? And from that,
none of that stuff is sound biteable. Like I can't go on to Fox and Friends and tell how I'm going to dominate because I can look underground.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
And that's the thing that's fucked up.
People want things like Halo armor and super guns and whatever. You know, that's the kind of
Yes.
or new fighter jets, and all that stuff is important and good for technology. But at the same time,
I would even be down with that. I just am like, I don't understand this return to like 1982 where we're all of a sudden Russia's a focus and we're talking about nuclear and we're talking about like our nuclear armament and how we have to be more superior. And I'm like, God, man, this is like, again, it just seems incredibly
silly and old school,
dated. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't think that. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, we seem to kind of be. I mean, like we're kind of the ones that always set the tone for like the way that. I mean, well, that we were that one. I don't know if we will be anymore, but we were always the ones that set the tone. Us in Russia, right? But like historically, it's the biggest power that sets the technological precedent, like the imperatives of other people's, right? So it's like at that. Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying though. It's like it's almost as if we're trying to convince everyone else that like knives are the new dangerous thing and everyone else has guns. Right? Like we brought
like, I don't need to drop a nuke. Like I don't like we've already like China can probably hack into, Bank of America and have us all at their mercy within a matter of minutes. Like what?
Why do we need
There's
a
no
bomb?
difference.
Why do we need a bomb? We could just delete your economy. Like who cares?
We could take over your Facebook, bitches.
No!
And you will cry.
No!
And you will cry. Yeah, there it is.
Did you see North Korea's
the brother.
Yeah.
The brother, Kim Jong-un's brother, who got
Kim Jong-nam.
Forget about clean coal, man. We got to talk about this for a second. He was sprayed in the face by two women who thought it was a practical joke that were put up to it, hypothetically.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
They thought it was water or whatever. He was dead like 20 minutes later.
It's so crazy. So that's stuff.
A neurotoxin, right?
That's
what was
stuff
it? It was like something.
Oh,
it's fucked up. Whatever.
We haven't looked at this.
Up. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm willing to put this out there. It wasn't good. It wasn't water.
So
again, like I gotta get my my geopolitical hat on. I don't know what's up with that. Like, why kill him?
So what they say. So first off, okay, the nerve agent that they gave him was VX. And
Dope name.
It's so deadly.
Dope
that
name.
You only need
2 letters.
Like,
that's how you do it.
It's pretty awesome. You only need something like a milligram to kill someone. Like kill them for sure.
Can we make this? Is this stuff we have in our home?
No, oh God, no. It's so crazy actually. So that's actually kind of interesting. The oh man, okay, we're getting like far off topic here.
We're gonna bring it back. We're gonna bring it back.
Listen, if people are interested, let us know if you'd like an episode on like chemical
neurotoxin.
Yeah, like nerve agents and stuff and like chemical weapons. It's super crazy. And also the way like there are people who end up working on chemical weapons and don't even realize it. Like there are people who like sign up for jobs at hospitals and then all of a sudden they're like, oh
in
my God,
bunker somewhere.
Well, I went to
haven't talked to their family.
So I went to a lab tour. This is actually pretty crazy. I went to a lab tour and I'm not going to say what company it was, but it's a big company. And
Uber. It was Uber.
It wasn't. I can say it wasn't Uber. What they were making was graphene. So like single layers of graphene for electrodes.
Oh, yeah.
And or they were trying to make single layers. And one of the processes of making single layers of graphene requires a like super deadly chemical, like so deadly. I'm not even certain of what. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like. It's
2-letter name.
It's not a 2-letter name, but basically what happens is if it's released into the air, like we're talking like a couple of 100,000 molecules can kill you, right? So we're talking like a pinpoint release. What happens in their lab where they're working? If there is a release of that stuff, it can measure like parts per billion of it in the air. And if it's released, what will happen actually is that their lab will lock itself and they will just die because they cannot have it released into the rest of the plant.
Yeah, no, with it. So was it a good package? I mean, did they have a cafeteria?
Well, I don't know. I think they have pretty good life insurance. I'm sure.
I would hope so.
I didn't ask.
I was just wondering, like, what's the carrot? I mean, that's like. Well, and by the way, here's our security failsafe system. It's a foot thick steel deadbolt door that will deploy automatically.
Right.
We ask, part of your new higher orientation is that you sit down with a videotape and, say goodbye to your friends and family.
It's like in Aperture Science and Portal or something where it's like, how did they, who developed this? Come on. Yeah. Anyways, so that's like the trick of clean coal, I guess. Let's just get back to it. That's the trick of clean coal is that,
it can kill you.
It can never, unless it's paired with something else like carbon capture and storage or carbon conversion or whatever. Clean coal, like burning coal, can never help global warming because it produces CO2.
And I can just. My thought is it's probably really much more expensive than what the sticker shock on something like that is probably enough that it would not pass any kind of Congress, any kind of bill.
So
it's pretty expensive.
That was actually the caveat I was just going to throw out there was even though clean coal is not the solution of the future, it is a solution for right now. Like,
is it cheap?
Coal is extremely cheap. Coal is extremely cheap. And, that's what makes it such a good fuel source, right? And so that's the thing, like coal and natural gas are super cheap, which is why we burn so much of them. Oil is like a whole different kind of thing. Like we burn oil for energy, but oil is useful for all kinds of other, like I said, chemical synthesis things. But coal and like natural gas are pretty much burnable. That's what we do. In terms of other like practical fuel sources that we could use right now, right? Like solar now has gotten much less expensive. But like you said, there's a capital cost investment to solar.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's got to buy solar panels. To use everyone's house has a coal furnace, right? I actually wrote a paper on this in philosophy in college on so it actually took America something like 200, like it took the colonists in America. We weren't in America yet. But it took the colonists something like 150 to 200 years to actually get their shit together and start burning coal. Because we had so much wood.
And peat. No,
pizza.
Pizza, Ireland.
Like we had so much wood that we still use wood stoves, right? Like some parts of America still use wood stoves.
Yeah.
Europe ran out of wood in like the Middle Ages. like wood for burning was not available, so they used coal. And America lagged behind that for a long ass time. Like certain parts obviously started using it, but like it lagged so long. On the other hand, though, the adoption of things like whale oil, or whatever, pretty quick in New England, not so quick in the South or the mid of the country, or you know what I mean. So it's a really interesting, actually, this interplay between like the economics of a situation, the scientific facts, like the technology that does exist, because they kind of go together. Like if something isn't sellable,
they have to.
Yeah, if you can't sell it, we're not going to make it, right?
And if it doesn't exist, you can't purchase it necessarily, even if there's a supply and demand for it.
Right. So, and that's the really interesting thing I saw. I was watching yesterday. I was watching CNN because I like to get myself angry at the panelists. I like to yell.
Like, talking heads, man.
Jeffrey, what are you talking about, Jeffrey? So they had David Axelrod on there though, and he made a really interesting point where he was talking to Rick Santorum, who is human garbage. Rick Santorum
God.
Rick Santorum. I know like we're not supposed to get overtly political on the show, although we kind of have with clean coal.
We just have.
But Rick Santorum is a bad person. Sorry, done. Out. He's just not a good guy.
And David Axelrod, I kind of love David Axelrod.
David Axelrod's kind of I don't know. That's the thing though. I don't know. Like I don't know enough about David Axelrod to say. I know enough about Rick Santorum to say not my favorite person.
No. But I would say David Axelrod is very smart, pretty grounded, and he's always got that mustache that hasn't been in style in like years. But he's gonna rock it. He's rocking that look.
Axelrod doesn't have a mustache. Am I thinking of the wrong guy? Hold on.
David Axelrod?
Yeah,
no.
hold on a second.
He had a mustache for a million years during when he was like Obama's big guy leading his campaign.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Axelrod, Rahm Emanuel, and Obama, power trio. They were awesome. They were awesome.
I forgot about the stash. He hasn't had one on
that stash. He was like, there was no sense that man had looked in a mirror in
my God.
22, 23 years. It was awesome. I love
David
him.
Axelrod.
But he's also like, that's a grounded dude, right? That's like somebody who I feel is like, he's coming from a good place. Anyways, Rick Santorum, human garbage.
That's interesting. That's the interesting thing I thought that he brought up was he was saying to Rick Santorum, he was like, my wife runs a foundation for the research of a genetic disorder. And basically what he was saying to him was the basic research that has to go into developing these kind of like cures or treatments or whatever don't come from industry right away. They come from industry buying academic research results that were paid for by the government, right?
Yeah.
Clean coal technology would, when global warming becomes less of a political issue and we start actually implementing technologies to fix the problem or at least mitigate it, it's going to be something like carbon capture on an adsorbent material, which is the kind of work that I do. They're high capacity.
Little job security.
Little job security, maybe. But what's so interesting though is that while that's the case, there are, hundreds of articles published every year where it's little small advances, right? Someone decides to test, so we have this, the materials I work with are called metal organic frameworks. Okay, we have these metal organic frameworks. Well, you change one metal. So it's made up of a metal center that bridges together to make a crystal. It's kind of like connects. I like to think like connects. If you change the metal, it'll change how much carbon it'll capture. So someone one day decides, no one's looked at, whatever, I don't know, tungsten or something, right? And they decide, well, let's try tungsten. Well, no industry isn't going to pay for that because they don't sell anything yet with it, right? So who's paying for it? It's the EPA. It's the Department of Defense. It's the Department of, you know what I mean? Department of Energy.
It was.
Anyways, all right. So that's it for clean coal. All right, Marie, let's hear this story.
Oh my
I'm excited.
God. Well, now I'm just thinking about Kim Jong-un's poor brother and if he's planning for the funeral or like, is that a state event? What do you do?
So here's the thing, right? So so he has been trying to kill his brother for years, right?
Wasn't that just sort of a sibling thing? He was actually trying to kill him?
No, he was trying to kill him because, here's the thing, right?
Well,
his
when
older,
you were a sociopathic dictator, that's kind of what you do.
So it's interesting. His older brother, so he's his older brother, right? Kim Jong, they're half brothers. Kim Jong-un's mother, pushed out Kim Jong-nam of succession, rather. So there's always been talk. Kim Jong-nam is the logical follower of Kim Jong-un. Or Kim.
Not so much.
So the problem, right, is that he is now in power. His older brother is out there. And if he's doing a bad job, maybe some in North Korea are saying, well, if we kill him, we can bring his brother. Right? That's the issue. That's the whole thing. Because it is a dictatorship, but it's not like
it's not like they got Twitter.
I think every year the cult of personality lessens more and more. You know what I mean? Like we've had defections from like top leadership. He killed the uncle. The uncle was murdered. That too. Right, because he was fomenting dissension, supposedly. Like he's systematically killing anyone that's in his line of succession, basically. So it's pretty real, pretty serious. And the fact that they have a VX, like a nerve agent like that, is scary.
I thought was a little, that was that was what I took away from it too.
It does
wasn't
not
so
take
much
very
like,
much. It does not take very much to like attack a major city or something, you know.
No,
and
it seems relatively effective.
And we're not really prepared for it either. Our infrastructure is crap. No. Like, you know.
No.
All right.
Okay, on to something a little bit more lightning.
Now for something completely different.
We talked about nerve agents. And
yeah.
First of all, giving it up to Chris Coxwell for being able to name all the Jungs in Korea and the succession plan.
I definitely got them wrong.
Fucking, man, that was good. I can say I saw The Imposter the other night. Remember that? That was what got Sony hacked.
Oh, yeah. That was interesting.
That is again my geopolitical hat. I think I saw a movie about it. All right. So what was I going to talk? Okay, so here's one. I'm going to put this out there. Imagine this. I don't have all the answers for it, but I work in an office building, like I'm sure many of our downloading followers do, and you work with a variety of different people. And so one of the people I work with, I would have to say he ended up being my boss and my very close friend. But when I first started to get to know him, I would have to say if someone on paper wrote down every single trait or every single thing that would drive me crazy and that would absolutely make me almost violent, it was in this person. Like he would show up, he would go to the gym at lunch.
Wait. I was going to say, okay, wait. Let's list these so that I can be sure not to do them.
No, trust me. It's like, just, when you see somebody, like, again, you're in a social situation or you're new to work and you're introduced to somebody. And again, like, it's not always, as Malcolm Gladwell has told us, it's not always, your first impressions aren't always the most accurate, and you have confirmation bias and all this other stuff, but you get sort of a gut reaction to people.
Sure.
And my gut reaction to this person was, I think I want to punch him in the face as many times as I possibly can before HR intervenes, which is not.
Which I've seen. You're fast. You're fast. That's a lot. That could be like lightning. I mean, he's in for a little bit of a punching.
So I mean, basically, he just would come in. It's just, and again, like, I'm sure people have the same reaction to me. People have the same reaction to other people. You just kind of meet what you anticipate is going to be your almost your nemesis. And this person would show up and he would be chewing gum all the time. And he had, he was perfectly pressed and he always looked very clean and hair was always brushed. And, he would be in meetings and he would be very, everyone was like, oh, let's, what does Sean have to say about this? Hey, did you route that deck to Sean? He's got some really good ideas. And I'd be like, you know what? Fuck Sean. I don't give a fuck about Sean. What the fuck? Like, I care what some chino ass motherfuckers talking about with my stuff. So,
Sean.
Yes.
Okay, wait. I want to make 2 points. 2 points quick.
Yes.
Number one.
Yes.
Will this end with Sean being a ghost?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. We can make that clear right now. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
I was getting ready.
Oh, no. It's a good ending. It's good. No, this is not the paranormal story. This is a good ending.
Okay.
Or it might be. No.
Okay, wait. Second point though, of clarification.
Yes.
Is Sean's your current boss?
No.
Okay.
No, he's not. He's not.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, are we gonna have to go back and edit this?
Yeah. We're gonna have to. We should just post. Hi there, my name's Marie Mayhew, and I'm looking for work. Any of our 10,000 downloads out there? If you've got some light admin, no, it's all good.
All right.
So yeah, basically, again, he's just this very extrovert. And it would somehow I ended up in the massive corporate shuffle, getting shuffled to work with him and be a direct report of his. And one of these traits that he always had, and it's like, and he knew right away, like he had his hands full, and I just had this open loathe. Imagine I couldn't really disguise my animosity. It was kind of, but he would start meetings and he would, to try and break the mood, he would always come up with some sort of verses. So he'd be like, we'd be walking to one of our meetings. We'd have all our little PowerPoints. We're going in to meet with some C-level muckety muck. And he'd be like, okay, guys, how about bear versus shark? Go. And I would always look at him like, you're an idiot. I'm not talking to you. But he would get into it and he'd be like, okay, you guys, how about a rhinoceros versus a hippo?
Okay.
Go. And then, right. Okay. So you get the point, right? And you're just at a certain point, I would just be glowering at him. I mean, it was just like, it was like one of those Daria cartoons where you could see sort of like the icicles dripping out of my eyes. And then one day he came up, he had run out of his iterations and somebody started to talk about a bobcat. And he was like, you know what? He's like, he's chewing gum and he just got back from the gym. He's like, you know what? I could take a bobcat. Bobcat's nothing but a big house cat. How hard could that be?
What? And
that's actually when I snapped. That's when, like, I don't know what happened, but I was like, okay, you know what? And we were right in the middle. We were getting ready to start a meeting or something. And all of a sudden, you could tell, like, he was like, oh, shit, the old grouchy chick's talking to me. What's up? And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm like, first of all, I don't think you could because a bobcat's actually a wild animal.
Don't you? And I'm just imagining you like, okay, I watched The Real Housewives of New Jersey because I'm trashy.
Flip the table.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you talk about my bobcats. My family. Okay.
All right. So it's like, it's sort of like, I was like, God. Yeah, Teresa.
Yes.
Shout out Jersey.
God.
But yeah, and so it was sort of like this weird pivotal moment where like afterwards I was just like, there's just no way. And I wouldn't let it go. And I was like, I started to engage him. And from there, he's like, what are you talking about? Of course, like I can bench X. I'm like, he was, relatively, I want to say like 5'11". He's like, well, 5'11". What? It's like a house cat. It can't weigh more than like what, 20 pounds?
Dude, they weigh like, and so adults can weigh like 40 pounds.
So yes, what I love is that you already know this, but like, yeah. So what came out of this, and we are going to debate this because this is my line of logic. But the good thing that came out of this is that I found out through this whole thing that he actually has a really good sense of humor and is a really funny guy, and has been like a really good friend of mine now for going on 6 years. And like when I knew him, he was in his, I want to say his mid 30s and just gotten married. He's now a dad to a lovely little boy named Ty, who I like to call Tiberius, which was the name I came up with. You know why? Badass name, right?
That is an awesome fucking name.
Tiberius. Well, that was sort of my contribution. And I was like, no, dude, Tiberius. Because again, James Tiberius Kirk, that's tough. That's a tough name.
Dude, Tiberius is a sick name. Tiberius.
So I'd like to think that he did name his kid Tiberius, but he's only giving me credit for this much, and they call him Ty. And he's got a really smart, funny wife who puts up with this shit. But to this day, he still is like, no, man, I got the Bobcat. And so here's what I am asking of you and of the listeners. I think of a Bobcat, and I'm like, okay, yeah, if you get an adult Bobcat, first of all, it is 40 pounds plus, right? Second of all, it has a bite index of 100. So it's not like...
Okay, so wait, what's the bite index? It's not
cougar. It's a bite index. So it measures the actual force of the bite, right? So it's like, I want to say like an alligator is like 2,000 or something. Like it's got enough pressure that it can actually take prey under just with the force of their bite. But Bobcat, 100. It's going to fuck you up, and it's not going to let go of you anytime soon. And physically, a Bobcat is bigger in the back, so it's got longer back legs, and what I'm assuming has more torque. So even if you could get your arms around it, that thing is going to be able to have more muscles and outmaneuver you.
So okay. So here's the thing. So the question then is, could a Bobcat kill a human?
I wouldn't even say kill a human. I think Sean's premise was always, because again, he wrestled in high school as he was, as he liked to, does he like to tell us? He'd like to tell us about that. So he could out wrestle, he could pin a Bobcat. And I was always like, no, the thing's going to fuck you up. All it's got to do is get just one piece of you and you are going to scream and cry and run.
I got it. Okay. So here's the thing, right? I just looked this up quickly.
I've wrestled a Bobcat.
I live in New Hampshire.
Trending.
I have wrestled Bobcats.
Cogs wrestled Bobcat. Hashtag it.
So they're like you said, they're like 40 pounds maximum, right? So they range from like 20 to 40 pounds. So they're like say they're like 4 times, 5 times the weight of a house cat, right?
Yeah.
And they're about that same amount of size. But even like tigers and like pumas and stuff don't kill all that many humans in a year.
No.
So the thing is I'm wondering, and there actually there was a recent case of a guy who got attacked by a bobcat and only escaped by He only escaped by choking it to death. So like, yeah. So like, I think if you manage to annoy a bobcat enough that it was attacking you, I think the only way you're going to get out of that is by killing the bobcat.
Well, so here's my other argument is if you manage to annoy a bobcat, you're not going to know because that thing is as quiet as all get out.
Well,
it's
that's
made to be quiet, right?
And that's
so it's got the element of
like,
surprise.
Are we talking like
steel cage deathmatch? Are we talking he's out running?
Dude, he's
out running in Marin.
This is the problem that always comes up.
Starbucks for a chai latte, and this is like those.
Yeah, this is like those stupid arguments that like you have in comic book stores where people are like, the Hulk could beat up Green Lantern, and it's like, well, only if he didn't have his ring, and it's like, well, like.
Okay, so not so stupid because but we're not going to because I think the Green Lantern. But okay, so yes, I agree with you in principle.
Yeah. No, Green Lantern would totally beat the crap out of the Hulk.
Oh, it would crap.
Not even a question.
But it's not. It's not. But I think what's interesting about it is it's like my point to Sean was like, look, you're looking at it through the lens of you would be wrestling another person who has got the same moral constraints, the same lens as you, the same rules and constructs.
Right.
The Bobcat's a wild animal. It's not a house cat, and it would literally do whatever it wants to fuck you up. And all it has, like, again, like it's got teeth. All it's got to do is sink itself into one part of you, and you are physically going to feel pain and involuntarily react.
Yeah, like
Sean to this day, he could beat the Bobcat.
I would.
So
I would give him. I think he would probably last.
And he's fit. He's a strong cat. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
A strong guy.
So I think he'd probably last. Maybe.
What?
Like,
because that's the other
minutes?
thing. Endurance. It's like I don't know how long something like a Bobcat can go
that's what I'm
without
thinking too.
tiring.
I think Bobcats, like other cats, are made for like quick jolts of activity and then long periods of like napping like a lazy house cat, right? Like that's really like what they're designed for.
Yes. Except if it's mine,
I don't
and then
know,
it's just
man.
to lay there.
I don't think like I don't know. I mean, would
see hidden depth to this question, and it is.
There is good.
It's got some science.
Interesting.
Got some good science. Did you also know that Bobcats have claws that actually are like cats? They retract and come out.
Oh, as opposed to like, it's interesting. So we're okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to put my top minds on this. I got a buddy who's actually a zoologist who will answer silly questions like this for me, I'm sure.
I was hoping he would actually get a Bobcat and we could just settle it in real time.
Honestly, I would not. My friend's name is Reed. I think Reed could probably beat up a Bobcat, but I also think Reed could beat up like 10 adult humans at once. So Reed's like a terrifying guy. Reed is a giant muscle of a man. So
what about the Green Lantern?
I'd give Reed 10 minutes with Green Lantern.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. That's not bad.
All right.
I'll take that.
That's an interesting question. We'll have to get onto this. And listen, and Sean, if you ever do get into a fight with a Bobcat, let us know.
No, and don't. You got a wife and kid, man.
Please don't. Yeah, no.
I'm kind of hoping that this will help. And the funny thing is, he's probably retired from this question. It's me every time. I'm like, so you and the Bobcat still?
You still got this thing? You're like, nah, no way.
Still got this thing and he's like, what? When did I? Yeah.
What did I say about a Bobcat? Interesting. All right, so we got a question. We got an interesting question from. Oh wait, hold on. I did want to say this. This was really funny. On the straight dope message boards, someone made a thread called "In General Questions" that said, "Has anybody ever been killed by a Bobcat?" And then in parentheses next to it, they said, "Not urgent." Like he's like in a tree. He's in a tree on his phone typing like, "Hey, can I get like how many people have been killed by a Bobcat for real?"
Things just circling under.
My God, so funny. So funny.
No, panic. I've got like a Hershey's bar.
Oh geez. All right.
Like forceful, not urgent.
Dude, where did I put this question? Like, okay, so this one came from Andrew Deaton, who asked us, and he's an awesome listener. He's been listening to us. He's been listening to the show since like the very beginning, practically. So very happy to have his support and all the awesome questions he gives.
Big up yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, he asked us if we had a potato the size. Okay, this is a serious question. Question. I did listen.
You know why? Potato.
I did math with this and everything. The question was, if we had a potato the size of the mountain known as K2.
Okay, K2, potato. Okay. I'm with you.
Which is, in case people don't know, that's also known as the Mount Godwin Austen or Chagori. It's the second highest mountain in the world. And
it's not really made of potatoes. Let's clarify that.
So its isolation is 8,611 meters, which is like 28,000 feet. But its prominence, which is the distance from the floor, like, you know, the surrounding ground to the top, is 4,017 meters. Right? Which is like 13,000 feet. So it's pretty high. It's a high elevation on its own. It's pretty damn high in terms of prominence as well. So anyways, so the question was, if you had a potato the size of K2, how many cans of Pringles could you make? That was the question. Now, so we did some research here. Pringles.
As much weed as Andrew smoked to come up with the Pringles question.
Right.
Which is excellent, sir.
Pringles are only 40% actual potatoes.
Yes.
And they claim
we broke the heart of like a lot of listeners.
Yeah, and they claim that there's 3 to 4 potatoes per can, which to me seems very like those must be tiny ass potatoes. So we calculated out. So there's about 0.4 pounds of total like mass in a Pringles can. And that's like your standard size can, which is the whatever, like the 6.7 ounces can. And so that accounts to about of 0.16 pounds of potato. That was the easy calculation.
Yeah.
I mean, this other calculation wasn't that hard either, but the assumptions. So these are the assumptions I made. Okay. I first looked at the prominence of the mountain. So I'm only taking the mountain, like I'm not taking like all the ground underneath the mountain, because I think that'd be stupid. I'm taking the volume of the mountain from the ground to its top point.
And we are making sure that it's not made of diamond.
It's not made of diamond this time. He was the one that came up with the diamond question as well.
Okay.
It's a lot of mountain questions.
It is a lot. I want to talk to Andrew about him and his fascination with mountains.
It's a lot of mountain questions.
It's a lot of mountain questions made out of other stuff.
Yeah.
Andrew, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Okay. So okay. It is.
All right, keep going.
It's okay.
Pringles.
So it's so like I said, that's the prominence of it. So 4,017 meters. So that's the height. I assumed that the mountain was a cone, like a triangular cone. Cause like, pretty good. No one calculates the actual volume of mountains, obviously. And to calculate the volume of an irregular shape, what we would actually do is we would use what's known as Archimedes' principle. Which actually, Marie, this is kind of a sweet science experiment for Julia, if you want. The idea,
Archimedes. I know. I'm with you.
Yeah, this is a sweet one. So the basic idea is Archimedes' principle is there's like the famous story of a king who asked Archimedes if his crown was made of solid gold or not. And so how Archimedes figured it out was he took the same weight in gold and he dropped it in a thing of water and looked at how much water it displaced. So how high the water rose. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, that's the volume of the gold, right? So if I know the weight and then I know the volume, I can get the density, which is weight per given volume. And that's usually in science denoted by the Greek letter rho, which looks like a little squiggly P. And so anyways, it's like a P with like a curly Q. So he then took the crown and he dipped it in. It was gold. And he was like, look, I've proved it. It's got the same density as gold. It must be gold. Anywho, I think he proved it, or maybe he didn't. And the guy that gave him the fake crown was beheaded. I don't remember that part of the story with Archimedes. Anyways, so that's how we would do it for an irregularly shaped object. We would just do displacement. We can't do that with a mountain, obviously, until global warming happens. So
TikTok.
So actually, that's an interesting question too. I wonder that's a good question that I'm going to come up with right now for next week. How high would the water rise if every glacier on Earth melted?
And would we still have Pringles?
We definitely would still have Pringles. So I'm gonna make that promise right now. So it's okay. So our prominence is 4,017 meters. I then got an approximate diameter of our cone. And I did that by looking at a map, like the topography of K2 basically, and just measured. So it's about 2 kilometers in diameter. So 2,000 meters. So we're looking at a cone that's 4,000 meters tall and 2,000 meters wide at the base. Okay.
With you.
Actually, I'm a liar. It's 4,000 meters at the base, because
that was just
2,000
alternative truth.
2,000 is the radius. 4,000 would be the diameter, so that's how wide it is at the bottom. So 4,000 tall, 4,000 wide. It's a cone. I then calculated the volume by using the volume of a cone. So the volume of a cone is given by pi times the radius squared times the height divided by 3. And actually, the way that we get those volume calculations is really interesting on its own as well. We actually use calculus to do it, which is pretty sweet. So maybe I'll do maybe we can do a really super nerdy episode on calculus. I'd be super into that. Calculus is like one of my favorite subjits.
And I will be drunk as can be.
Dude, okay. All right. Before we get it, listen, before we do this Pringles thing,
okay.
Marie, we're going to teach calculus really quick, super easy. Okay, ready? Okay.
Yeah!
Okay, calculus. Literally.
It was pass or no pass. Credit, no credit.
Mariah,
Do you know how many times? Really quick thing. You know how many times I took calculus?
How many times? Really?
4 times.
Wow.
Yeah. You know who never got credit?
Oh man.
Hey, you know what? It's all part of learning. It's
all right, listen.
And it is why I am a humanities major.
Listen,
today,
real talk right now. I almost failed calculus 1 and 2 as an undergrad because I was just garbage at it. I didn't understand it at all. And then when we got to calculus, I guess what you would call calculus 3, which is differential equations, it all made sense to me suddenly. And I just fucking got it.
I think that is because you may be smart.
I know. I think honestly, I wonder if it's not. I wonder if it's not just that I took the class because it's basically the same material. If you take it enough times, eventually something will stick. I guess. Anyways, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I look back on it now, and I'm like, the one thing I really would like to be really good at, mathematics. It's fascinating to me now. Back not so much,
right.
but. We're looking at Pringles. We're talking about Pringles.
All right. We will. If people want a calculus thing, we will do it. So the volume that we got from that calculation. So we just plugged in the radius was 2,000 meters. The height was 4,017 meters. The volume we get is 1.68 times 10 to the 10th power meters cubed, which is a lot. Which is a lot of volume. Okay.
Oh, Andrew, why do you want all this? Why do you want all this Pringles, man?
Man, he's you know what? If Pringles wants to sponsor the show, hit us up. I'm into that. So the next step. Don't sue us. Yeah, okay.
Good.
Once we had the volume of Pringles, the volume of the mountain. We needed to get the weight of the mountain because we know how much weight of potato is in a can of Pringles, right? So, K2 is made of a rock type called gneiss, Gneiss. And so gneiss has the density of a density of about 2.6 to 2.9 grams per centimeters cubed. Okay, so we took 2.9, we converted it to grams per meters cubed, and then we basically took the volume, which is in meters cubed, multiplied it by the density, which is in grams divided by meters cubed, and then got grams at the end. How many grams is the mountain? And the mountain it comes down to is 107 trillion. It's 100. It's actually 448 trillion kilograms is how massive K2 is. And that comes down to 107 trillion pounds. So that's a lot. That's pretty heavy. And actually Mount Everest, Mount Everest, someone else has done the calculation on Mount Everest. Mount Everest is 357 trillion pounds. So we're in the same ballpark. So we're good. Our assumption seems to be okay. Okay.
Woo,
so,
all right.
If you now take the weight of the giant potato of K2, and then you say, okay, so I have 107 trillion pounds of potato, and I need 0.16 pounds of potato for a can of Pringles, then you can divide that 107 trillion into 0.16 pieces of 0.16, and what you get is 671 trillion cans of Pringles. A lot.
That would last like 2 or 3 months.
A lot of Pringles. Actually, I just got kind of a funny question. Hold on. So what's the height of a Pringles can? So the height of a Pringles can is 10.5 inches. 10.5 inches.
It's the diameter.
So 10.5 inches is that's like 0.2667 meters. So like let's say 0.3 meters.
Are you circling the Earth with them? What are you doing?
I'm wondering how far we could get to the sun. So the distance. Okay, the distance to the moon.
Stairway to heaven with our Pringles.
So the distance to the moon is 384,472 kilometers. And so let's see. We can do that's a lot. We can do that divided by 0.2667. Oh, come on.
Because I just thought of another wrinkle. We're making the assumption that K2 is solid potato and not a huge pile of potatoes.
Okay, hold on. That's a good. Hold on. Okay. So
Bring Pringles into it. It gets real for me over here.
To get to the moon, we would need 1,441,590 cans of Pringles stacked end to end.
We got that, right?
I mean, dude, we could go to the moon and back.
Like I said, stairway.
What's the distance to Mars? How far could we get? Let's see. So Mars,
we gotta get Robert Bigelow on the phone.
So Mars is 225 million kilometers. Shit, dude, we could get to Mars. Like, we could get to Mars and back.
Get Pringles on the phone. You got sponsorship. This is dollars, people.
We could get to, so we could actually, yeah, we could go to Mars and back.
With our Pringles can.
Let's see.
But.
So that would be, let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that would be 843 million cans of Pringles to get to Mars.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've got that in spades. Dude, we could go back and forth to Mars a whole bunch of times. Anyways, Andrew, don't eat that many Pringles, please.
Andrew, my man, and let's talk. Let's talk about what's going on with Andrew.
Send us
How's
more.
Andrew treating Andrew?
Send us.
I'm worried. All these lofty questions about things that are unattainable.
Please, we love the questions. Send us more. Mountain related or no, they're phenomenal.
We love the Pringles. Pringles stuff is good.
That's a good one. And so that's the answer. So, actually, Marie, your point was kind of interesting. You said we're assuming that it's one giant potato.
But what if it's not? What if it's a bunch of, let's say, smaller potatoes like Yukon size, which are 3x2 and have individual.
Okay,
volume.
This gets into a whole. Are you sure you weren't good at calculus? This gets into a whole other fucking problem now. What you're
No, wait. Don't, we're not going to try and solve that shit, man. Come on, no. We're going to go.
I got my pencil. I've got my pencil and my calculator.
Like, hey, you know what's really good radio? Math. You're like, okay, hold on. We're going to draw these potatoes. Everyone's like, okay.
Right. We've already lost them. We've already lost them all. Now it's just for our entertainment.
Oh, yeah, no. We lost them at Bobcat.
We lost them at Bobcat.
I don't care about Bobcat.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. Here's my answer though. Here's my answer to that really quick. The smaller the potatoes get, so that a potato is so small compared to the size of the mountain that the distance between potatoes is probably negligible. Like if we stack them, think about this, right? Or actually, no, that's not true at all. What I'm thinking of is, it's called void fraction or void volume. It's like when you stack, if you stack like spheres together,
you have the spaces in between.
Yeah, you got space in between. The smaller that the spheres get, the smaller that space becomes, right? And the smaller the fraction of that space compared to the total volume becomes. But anyways, that's a whole other big stupid thing.
All right. This is good shit.
So we did Pringles. All right. What else we got on the docket here today? All right.
I believe we had, yes.
So we got 2 more topics. Okay. I think we should leave Oak Island for last because it's like super fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you just gave it away.
Oh, shit.
Mauricio Reverend Tangent.
No.
Bigfoot?
No, it's not about anything.
Oak Island.
It's not about anything.
Bigfoot? Oak Island. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You didn't hear anything. Flat Earth. So we got another question from another
potatoes. Flat Earth.
Another great listener of the show. He actually just started listening. So he actually reached out to us on Instagram.
Kudos.
Yeah, which is awesome. So his this is Munch the Crunch 525. So he said,
you like Pringles Munch?
So he said, why do you think the flat earth movement is growing, especially among celebrities? For example, B.O.B., Kyrie Irving, Tila Tequila. And where do you think this movement gained traction? So first off, let me just say, Tila Tequila could be her own episode. So if you guys don't know who Tila Tequila is because you don't watch the kind of trashy TV that I do, Tila Tequila she was like famous for having MySpace friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she was MySpace famous back when that was a thing. And so she like started like kind of like, she kind of started like making music and like weird videos and stuff and whatever.
She was like a proto Kim Kardashian is how I like to look at her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She was like, before the machine really streamlined.
Yeah, being famous for being famous.
Being absolutely nothing looked like.
Yeah, so she I think that's like the perfect example on it, or the perfect description, honestly. So she ended up getting like the most notoriety, I'd say, for a show she had on VH1 called A Chance at Love, or A Shot of Love with Tila Tequila or something. A Shot at Love, I think it was called. Wow. And on the show,
get it? Because it's tequila.
Yeah. Clever. So on the show, she's bisexual. And on the show, the whole premise was that she was dating both dudes and chicks at the same time. That was the premise. And so she, like, the whole thing was like, oh my God, which one am I going to choose? Which, like, totally just, belittles the struggles that people, you know what I mean? Like, sexual identity is a hard thing to begin with. And then to have a TV show where it's like, like it is just like a decision for some people, you know what I mean? It was distasteful.
She's just, I don't know. I think, her and Rick Santorum have a lot of similar traits.
And so she basically, like, over the past, I'd say 5 years, maybe like 5-6 years, she's gone just completely off the fucking rails.
What?
Not even 6 years.
On.
Like even no. Like so. I think
pillar of stability.
So here's the thing. Here's the
rationale.
Thing, right? Here's the thing.
Sorry.
It's okay. I don't want to be belittling mental health at all. Right. If you feel like you need help, you should get help, and that's there's absolutely no shame in it at all. You know what I mean? Totally.
Unless you're perfectly healthy and you're doing it for notoriety and attention.
In which case, you have a mental health disorder called Munchausen syndrome, or you know what I mean? Or narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah, narcissism.
Yeah. Like, okay, we're just armchair psychologists at this point. So this is the thing, right? Like. So I honestly think that Tila Tequila probably needs some like mental health counseling. Honestly, but so it started off with her like she said that she was an alien human hybrid with an angel. So it was like a angel. The alien was actually an angel, and she was the hybrid baby that they had with a human woman, and so she claims she has like telekinetic powers and stuff.
Sort of like Preacher, but without the good plot.
Yeah. So she like claims that Hitler had the right idea with the Aryans and stuff, and that there is this like grand Jewish conspiracy theory. Which, by the way, man, this is gonna open up a whole other can of worms, a whole other tangent for me.
A whole other can of Pringles. People. Here we go.
Fucking hate when people use the term like globalist conspiracy or whatever, because they're always missing that one operative word that is at the root of that whole idea, right? And this isn't like, I don't agree with this idea at all, right? I just want to say that right now. Absolutely not. But the whole root of that idea of like a globalist conspiracy run by bankers is that they're actually Jewish bankers, right? It's the same argument that the Nazis were making, but now people are like, no, but what, like it's ridiculous. Like it's so fucking stupid. And whatever. There's a whole series of episodes coming up on like the globalist conspiracy and the Denver airport, all that bullshit. But anyways,
whoa! The Denver airport. Have you been to the Denver airport?
I have. It's a little weird.
Have I already gone into the Denver airport with you?
I think we've done this off air. I think we did this when we met.
Oh,
yeah, it's serious.
Denver airport is. I'll tell you what. It's creepy. It's
It
creepy.
is-
It's
it is
weird. It's got
weird.
some weird shit. It's got some weird choices. It's got some
It's
weird
definitely
choices.
strange, but I don't know if
It's got some more choices.
but
Do I say New World Order airport? I don't. I'm with you. I think when you start talking about New World Order, when you talk about a mass conspiracy that requires organization, planning, and cooperation on a huge level, that shit's just not going to happen. One, because nobody can keep a secret.
No.
Ask Sean Spicer how that's working.
Yeah, seriously.
And then two, like, there's just nobody that's going to get along that well for any amount of money on that
like,
without some sort of turnover.
Like as much as I wish that the smoking man from the X-Files really existed, right? Like it's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, they're just not that smart. We're just really not that smart.
Yeah. Anyway, so and Tila Tequila now is kind of, so she kind of ebbs coming in and out of the public consciousness, I guess, but she's always kind of there, like out there in the ether. And so she recently came back to prominence because she went to an alt-right event where they hailed Trump, which is just fucking crazy. So anyways, so she's just kind of like, I think she personally probably needs some kind of help, but generally she's just sort of like whatever form she's taking now is just distasteful regardless. Like, anyway, so Tila Tequila is kind of an interesting case. I think she is an unfortunate, I think maybe she's an unfortunate victim of the people around her and people just not taking care of her and really looking out for her better interests. So I actually find Tila Tequila to be pretty, a pretty sad story. But anyways, getting away from
Flat
that.
Earth.
Oh yeah, get away from that. Downer. So we killed him with math and we killed him with downers. Yeah, this is rough.
I know.
So the flat Earth thing. So the question basically was, why, like, he followed up and he said, why do people just there's so much evidence for it. Like, we've been to space and taken pictures of Earth, right? Mm-hmm. You can buy a telescope and look at the stars move in a circular pattern.
The apogee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can, and the argument people always make is, well, if I stand on a top, one argument I always see online that's so silly is, if I stand on the top of a tall building, I don't see the curvature of the Earth. And it's like, well, the Earth is fucking massive, dude. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Like, it's ridiculous. It's such a stupid thing.
Come down from that tall building and vote against your own best interest.
I mean, it's like,
call it a day.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen an electron with my bare eyes. Right?
Well, yeah,
why do we believe in electrons then? I've never seen a germ.
Yeah.
You ever seen a germ, Marie? No. Like, it's ridiculous.
No.
And so here's the thing. We are going to do, and this is like the same cop out that we gave last time for the hollow earth thing.
Science.
That is coming. Although that was a bad answer. I'm sorry for that bad answer. We will be doing, this is going to get wrapped in with a whole episode on grand. I actually think I'm just going to do an episode called Not Spherical Earths or something, like weird shaped Earths, the cubical Earth or something. But like
this island. Yeah.
So the thing that's interesting is they come up. So a big part of, I don't want to say that this is all of them, because it certainly isn't, but a big part of this flat Earth thing comes from biblical fundamentalism. Mm-hmm. In the Bible, it says that the Earth is the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. And that works on a flat Earth pretty easily. Right?
Other stuff around. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it's kind of a, what's the word? It's kind of like a throwback to that idea. And so what they argue is that they have all these complicated arguments to try to explain, like, okay, well, we see, one version of this is that the Earth is a flat plane and on top of it is like a dome. And on the dome are the stars and the planets and whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so some people argue that the moon doesn't even exist. that actually like the hole in the, it's kind of like
Kubrick. It was Kubrick. Kubrick directed the whole thing, right?
So it kind of ties in with the moon landing hoax too, that some people think like it's a very again, Elder Scrolls style kind of argument that the hole in the Elder Scrolls, they say that the sun is actually the hole in space that it connects the immortal plane to the mortal plane. It connects Aetherius to Mundus. But so this argument would be the hole in space is actually connecting heaven to earth. Right? And so what's underneath the flat earth? Hell. What's on top of the flat earth past the thing? It's heaven. Right?
I was going to say topsoil, but no.
No. So, and no. I think it's really interesting. So they'll make arguments that like we see solar eclipses, right? Mm-hmm. Which is when, or partial eclipses or whatever, we can actually see things moving in front of each other in space sometimes. Mm-hmm. How do we explain that if it's just a panel? Right? How do we explain it if they're not actually spheres?
Well, I also think like you don't even have to get science-y for this. I think it's like people that have this mentality about it are just also it's almost an aberration of their own personality, right? In some ways, it's like there is nothing else beyond a surface or beyond an existence that is not affected by anything else or has no other relation to anything else in a lot of ways. I think it does tie back to mental health in a lot of ways. In that I think if you are afflicted with something like whatever that looks like, whatever form that takes, it manifests itself in any kind of spiritual belief or any kind of belief in any kind of physical realm too. Like it probably doesn't just self-contain to, a healthy dose of self-loathing or just not being able to manage to things. It's just that pervasive. And I think that's what's so hard. It's like, and I think that that's also the interesting thing about like confirmation bias. And when you start to revalidate things that only tell your own narrative, when is that like sort of a normal? Right. When is it a normal process spectrum versus And you're like, it's sort of self-reflexive. Like you can stop and you can be like, oh, you know why I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer? It's because of, or whatever it is, versus when there is nothing out there that is going to bring you back from being able to tell the difference. And I think that's unfortunate. I think people believe it because that's their reality to believe. And it's not necessarily healthy, and it's not necessarily, a long-term thing that's going to be good for anybody. But I think that's sort of more of a big picture thing. Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound either like. I just brought the room down, y'all. No, sorry. No, you didn't. You didn't. Oh, I mean, brought the room. No. What I want to say is like I don't want it. I don't know. Like, I mean, Marie, we've never discussed personal religious convictions or anything. You know what I mean? Really, we haven't really discussed that ever. Because it's reptile not like people. Reptile. Yeah, me too. Reptile. Me too. So that's good. So we're on the same page with the Church of Reptile. Boom. Reptile God. But the Church of Reptar. Sulu or whatever. Sulu. But Lovecraftian stuff. I think it's an interesting I think it's. Not to take away from personal faith or conviction or whatever, you know what I mean? People that have that, that's great. I hope it brings you comfort and joy and whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever it does for you, I hope it's something good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I do think that there is something to that. This idea of a fundamental belief, like fundamentalist style beliefs, non kind of I don't want to say irrational, but unscientific belief systems, complicated. Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Unexamined belief systems, right? Where you don't go back and reflexively look and say, is what I'm saying make sense? Is it cohesive within one story even? Right. Belief systems like that, I think, like you say, are definitely more prone to having these kinds of jumps. You know what I mean? Kierkegaard called them,
Kierkegaard kind of coined the phrase leap of faith
Leap.
for that kind of stuff, right? The leap.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Soren is a badass kid's name.
Soren, right?
Soren Kierkegaard.
Well, yeah, it's not Tiberius, but it's pretty dope.
It's pretty dope. So, anyways, so I think there's a little bit of that in there.
Yeah.
I also think, though,
I agree with that. I
also think, though, that part of the problem with like these popular scientific things is that how many people listening to this show know a scientist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know scientists because I work with them. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of scientists, but like,
so you don't even need to know a scientist. All you gotta do is watch Mythbusters.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Get a lot of respect.
But still, like,
But I'm with you.
a lot of the exposure people get to science is stuff like that. Like, I think shows like Mythbusters and, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye, like, those are people I look up to that I want to emulate, right? I would love to be the Bill Nye of whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know, the Bill Nye of this generation or something, putting on my hopeful pants here. But like, I would love that, right? I would totally love that. The problem, I think, though, is that that's usually people's only exposure to science. People don't know how science happens. People I think, again, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia explains this with such cutting perfection. And if anyone who even has any kind of like striking closeness to It's Always Sunny is listening to this show, dude, come on.
Some good stuff.
Give me a contact. I would be fucking over the moon with that. So that's what this all has been, is a ploy to get to shake hands with Danny DeVito. That is what this
Charlie
is.
Day.
Yeah.
That is hysterical.
So I think it's awesome when Mac is like, they're talking about it's in the episode The Serial Defense, Reynolds versus Reynolds. And they're arguing about natural selection, and Mac's got this thing, and he's like, Galileo thought, the earth was round, and everyone believed him or whatever. Or no, oh my God, what is it? He's like, he's just showing these scientists whatever, and he's like, Isaac Newton proved gravity and whatever, and everyone was so blown away by his scientists, but he died from eating lead, making him and everyone else who looked at his work a giant science bitch. And he slaps the thing on there. This bitch, this sticker. It's perfect because it's true. And then afterwards, Dennis is like, come on, I'm not gonna. You want us to not believe in natural selection, which, by the way, could be its own episode and will be once Katie manages to get my head around it. He's like, you expect us to just take the word of some guy who wrote this 4,000 years ago, right? And he goes, oh, that's an interesting point, Mr. Reynolds. Well, let me ask you, those documents that prove to you that evolution is real, have you read them yourself? And he's like, well, no, I haven't read them. So he's like, well, so let me get this straight then. You're taking the words of someone else, words that you've never read and don't understand, on faith? And of course, everyone in the everyone in their bar courtroom is like, oh, and they all are like, well, he made you look like a science bitch. Like, it's, it works. Yeah. So I think that's true. Like, a lot of people's only exposure to science is as this, like, almost faith-based thing where some guy in a lab coat tells you global warming is happening, and then you're supposed to believe it. And no one teaches, people don't look at science as a thing that anyone could do or everyone could understand. Science is pretty, there's a lot of terminology and jargon and whatever, but at its baseline, it's pretty simple. It's pretty much this scientific,
Yeah, it's pretty much every time you wake up, go outside, do anything, you are going to do something.
Yes.
That is science.
Every time there's a cause and effect in some way, it is science. You can test it.
Bitch.
So it's science, bitch. We've said
science, bitch.
Listen, we've said bitch way in the last 10 minutes. First off, I like how the show devolved into me reenacting my favorite It's Always Sunny episodes. I like that. That's that's just what this has become now. Anyways,
you guys, here's the thing, you guys, you do have to download it. It's hysterical.
It's phenomenal.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia is hysterical.
Phenomenal.
But I do think, like, when you get with that, the whole flat Earth, any kind of argument like that, to your point, you've got this weird mix of science and faith, and I don't know what. Just because I'm not an incredibly religious or, faith-based person, I know people that have, been relatively, non-entire life and then have all of a sudden found it. And to me, that's always a puzzle. But, again, it's like something turns on or cues in their life that they feel that this is what they need, and this is the answers that's going to keep them. And it's like, do I necessarily buy into... they buried him and then he rolled the rock aside and 3 days later, I don't know, I don't think so. But at the same time, I have trouble with it. To me, it reflects a lot of sort of the flat earth mentality. Yeah. But it's sort of that weird fine line. I think if you as an individual feel like I'm not doing harm to others and I am finding the best self within myself, okay, then I'm cool with it. But as long as you're not waving around your fist and punching me in the nose with it, it's kind of
exactly
where I go.
You can shake your fist around as long as you don't hit me.
Don't hit me in the nose. That's all it is.
Definition of rights. Yeah. That's I think. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like I always look at it as that was kind of the part of this whole show is that I find it very interesting when I meet. There are some fields of science that don't amend themselves very well to being certain
social.
Well, yeah, sorry. Absolutely. No, it's totally true.
Around other people.
Well, like I think that they're not necessarily amenable. I totally know you're teasing. Come on. He says as he Skypes from a mountain abode where he's been alone for. I shuffle down the mountain to the Hannafords and I'm like, give me milk. And then I run away.
Here's the thing that you guys can't see. He's surrounded by oil paintings of raccoons.
That oil painting is badass. All right. Anyways, so I think it's totally good for its own topic, honestly. But yeah, I think a big problem with it is that people don't have access to science and scientists. They don't know how it happens. And so to them, it seems like science is of the same kind of process as a religious belief or
but it's not a humanity. It doesn't come from human.
Yeah. That religion, I don't want to say religion necessarily, that science is a belief system where there is no logical, at some point you have to take a leap to just believe. But that's not what science is. It's built specifically to not have that.
It's not just like gravity. It's not just a good idea.
Yeah.
It's the law.
So, on to topic 5.
Dude, yeah. If we've got anybody left, like you were at like 10,000 something, and now it's like 9,000.
So I think
723.
I think so far we've managed to annoy
24.
We've managed to annoy Pringle lovers.
Hopefully.
Religious fundamentalists. Bobcats.
Anybody? Oh yeah, fuck those Bobcats.
And people and people that don't like math. So this is good.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. Oh, and speaking of this, I want to give a shout out, friend of the pod, Rob Christopherson.
Yes,
so he
absolutely.
He pinged me the other day. He texted me and he was like, "Okay, so just listen to the podcast." And I just want to say, so for somebody who's like, mocking millennials and their and their depression, and it seems like you have a glass of wine in your hand the entire time. Just ha ha ha. And I was like, Rob, you know what? Okay, hey. Like I said, no confirmation bias here, people. I step back. I take a long, hard look at myself, and I was like, you know what, Rob? I'm just kind of an asshole. And that's really what it comes down to.
You got told.
I am just
so hard. Oh,
I know. Thanks, Rob. But it does, you know what? I wish I had more of an epiphany. I'm an asshole.
Rob with the stinging rebuke. Oh, joy.
Rob.
Awesome.
Et tu, Rob. Et tu.
So Rob, so we et tu Robus. Et tu Robus. So we met Rob through the ARC, right? Through Astonishing Research Corps. He's awesome. He's totally a good
podcast. Does his own stuff.
Yeah, he's great. Do you
the Turnbuckle Binge.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's also a writer on UFO stuff, which is really cool. I'm actually going to be, I hope, providing a chapter or a chapter, like a little story or whatever for a upcoming collection that he's making, which will be awesome.
He's an aficionado, a UFO aficionado.
Yeah, we need to make like an actual ad or like an actual plug for his show.
We should make a plug for his show. But I was like, okay, Rob, fine, Rob. Let me put down my glass of Chardonnay and kudos, Rob. Slow clap, golf clap for Rob. Anyways, okay, so that was just my own call out there. What else we got? What is the final diatribe of the night? We've pissed off everyone. We're into like 7 hours later. I'll tell you what we need to talk about. So as you know, I do have sort of a sick fetish with Oak Island and any kind of TV show about Oak Island. I was watching Curse of Oak Island on the History Channel the other night, and I got done with it. And it was one of their rehash shows where they kind of go back through the past season and they do like the light overview of like, this is who found the island. These are all the digs. They went down 10 feet, And what started to bug me is I realized there's just nothing about the guys who actually found the original site
like
before anybody came in and trashed
first kids that like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back in 1790 something, there's a couple different, like if you listen to all the podcasts on it, there's a few different iterations of the story of how they found it. Either they were adventuring, there's like 3 16-year-olds and it's very Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. They're out adventuring on the island and they find a tackle box that they want to dig. It's like very, very storied. And even what I would consider one of the more reliable, which is Astonishing Legends, came up with like, they were up late at night and they looked over at Oak Island and there were lights and they wanted to know what the lights were. They saw lights in Oak Island and so they traveled across and then they found the tackle box and started to dig. And again, it's like very storied. I cannot believe that there isn't more known about the original 3 and the fact that one of them actually knew what was there. Or actually has like more information on it.
Yeah, like how did he find it?
Because it's not like, again, I think if you're a 16-year-old boy, which is basically a 16-year-old man in the 1790s, you don't have a lot of free time to go dig in with your buddies. And this is on a different, I'm leaving the family for exponential amount of time when I should be actually saving up for whatever chores, whatever livelihood I'm bringing to the family. I'm going to go over here and dig some random fucking hole on some island. As soon as I started to step back and look at it, none of that original premise makes any kind of sense. And that's just my other little diatribe about Oak Island, because I feel like I have to have one I don't feel like I have to have one every week. Every time I see something, it ends up about that damn show, and I'm like, God damn that island. And here's why I'm mad. But to get what I mean, it's weird. It's like you're walking around an island. You're walking around someplace. You're just exploring. You're just like, again, like your Huck Finn. You got your paintbrush. You're going to sucker some kids into painting a fence. You're going to, row down on a raft, whatever it is. And you come across a depression in the ground and there's an oak tree and there's a tackle box. And you naturally think, I think I'm going to start to dig. Does that make sense?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? So I think Astonishing Legends, like you said, did like the definitive Oak Island podcast series. Like I've never heard a better one. No. And it is like a really interesting. So I didn't, but I also think that it is very, I think in many ways related to another great series that they did, which was the Knights of the Golden Circle series.
My favorite, yes.
It's my favorite
Agreed.
too. Is my favorite
Agreed.
hands down. Like that one had me
Agreed.
totally engrossed. And like I don't know if maybe because now we like help them do research. Like it's taken a different it's totally different now listening to the episodes. Because like I know how the research, you know what I mean? Like it's different being like kind of even just a small part of something and seeing how it's made a little bit and whatever. But like in that series, the Knights of the you got to listen. You've got to listen to these series. The Knights of the Golden Circle one is basically the search for the lost Confederate gold. And so this guy claimed that his grandfather had given him these like training almost in like how to find hidden caches of gold. And so basically he was like, if you the one that always struck me as interesting was because it's almost like tracking in the woods, like people that can pick up a game trail or something, right? I'm always fascinated by that. Like they see, like berries out of place or something, or like a twig broken in a weird way. And they're like, oh, an animal must have come through here.
He went that way.
Yeah. And I'm always like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, yeah, I don't see anything. You know what I mean? All looks like leaves and dirt to me. It's like, I think it's like a skill set like that. Like this guy said his grandpa taught him, which is being able to tell, like suspicious markings or like the ways that a person would show you where something is buried or whatever. Right. So I always thought of it when because that series came out after the series
Knights of the Golden
Circle. In the Knights of the Golden Circle, when they said that one of the telltale things that people used to do to hide treasure was to lay a plumb line down from a tree branch. So for those that don't know what a plumb line is, it's basically like a string with a weight on it that falls down and it points to where the treasure is hidden or something, right? And so they would put it up in the tree in a place that you wouldn't. And so actually, this is pretty fascinating. The person, I'm not going to say who because he's still in the family, but one of our relations in our family,
the Cogswell family, not mine and Chris.
No, in our family, used to put caches of gold and silver in the woods by my house.
What?
Because he was totally convinced that the government was going to come.
Well, that's true. It is. You should have taken some better notes, man.
But
you should have taken some better notes.
I'm still going out there. Like it's all gone now. He's moved away. But like I still go out there and find his like fucking traps and shit that he laid. Okay.
So I don't doubt that is a set of knowledge that
you could get. But why did this 16-year-old boy have it? Is what you're saying.
It's a very particular skill set. And I don't know. I think the thing that kind of opened up to me is like, I don't know anything about Dennis McGinnis. I don't know what his family did. I don't know how long his family was. I don't know what relation he was to the island.
I wonder though, like it's funny. You say, do 16-year-old boys have time to dig?
They dug for quite some time.
They did, but I'm actually thinking of like times where as a kid, I used to do stupid shit like that all the time. Like I'm thinking of that episode of The Simpsons where Bart is out in the backyard digging and Homer's like, they're like, what are you doing? He's like, digging. Like, why? I don't know. Just digging a hole. He's just digging a Simpsons episode. Second one this episode.
Second night.
He's just like,
no, and I agree, but you're also a 20th century. You're like a 20th century kid, right?
Yeah, but when did Oak Island happen? You said
1790. I'm saying if you're a 16-year-old in 1790, I and again, got to do a little bit more research, but I draw a distinct difference between I'm going to go and I'm going to, and again, like how much of that island would you have to just be like whistling Dixie across and all of a sudden decide to dig in this one place?
Maybe I'm
making an assumption. I'm making an assumption that maybe they dug a bunch of places and maybe treasure was the idea of treasure and pirates.
So so that's another point that I was going to make though, is that like, I wonder if
I say that whole narrative is fake.
You're saying that the narrative of them looking for treasure was fake.
I'm saying yes, that they just happenstanced across it. That they saw this plum on the tree, and they saw.
See, I don't know if I don't
know. Huck, that I should dig, and they dug. No, that was something. One of them knew something else about that, and that's what started this whole thing.
I don't know.
It's not like they dug a bunch of places. That's part of the story.
I don't know.
And the story is not the same thing anywhere either.
I don't know if I think that they were just like. I think they were looking for treasure because they had been told that treasure was on that island by family and friends or whatever, and so they were looking.
Was it like I don't know that part of the story? It's like wasn't it like
a wasn't it like a well-known pirate cove though? Like I thought, and that's the thing too. But like I'm thinking too. Like
how precise do you have to be to do that though? That's the other thing. It's like again, I'm taking into account a whole huge amount of assumptions. There's a depression in the ground and something hanging from a tree.
Right.
I think you've just described. Maybe on something that is 0.217 square foot, which is the island size, you just described a lot of different weird ass scenarios, right? Like I could come to a rock with a cross that has an X. I'm going to dig here. So it's this huge specificity that if you took it out of like take away any kind of narrative around it and be like 3 teenagers in 1790 just brass tacks about it, did this one thing and it was 100% right on, and they dug and they found something. Couldn't you extrapolate from that one of those 3 had some knowledge beforehand? Isn't that a reasonable expectation? Knowledge beforehand. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm throwing out to my people. 10,000 plus downloads. Niche market. Treasure.
I think
hashtag trending. No, so I'm just saying, like, they have all these stories again, like these very general stories about how they found it. I've gone back, I've looked at it, like even with this, everybody sort of skips that part and just jumps into the fact that then they dug, and they found. Yes, and then they found this, and then they found that, and then
I wonder if it wasn't like a local legend passed down, or like an uncle or a family member told them, hey, like. I had been told as a kid that there was treasure there, and you got to look for this thing, and then they went on and looked. But I'm also thinking though, because I think you're totally bringing up a valid point. I'm also though thinking we should look into that more for sure. I think that should be something we just look into, whatever, as a team. But and we'll tell Scott and Forrest when we find something.
And they'll be like, God damn it, we put that thing.
we need another Oak Island episode.
Go research electric fog.
Right. So. The thing that I'm thinking though is almost the it's not called the gambler's fallacy, but it's like I guess the best way to describe it is there was a really good skit by Darren Brown on UK television where and he's a skit. It's like a whole series, and he's like an illusionist. He's badass. Everyone look him up on YouTube. He's the fucking man. And so his whole thing was, he did this show where he picked one person out of a group of 50 people to teach them how to bet on horses. And every week they won until the last one where they won like $1 million or something.
Right.
And the trick was he actually picked all of them and then only showed the one that won the whole time. You're right. So, exactly. So I wonder if it's not like a lot of kids in the 18th century were looking for treasure because that was a common myth for them to have. And these kids happened to find something interesting.
Dug that shit up. But then again,
and no one's found shit though. But there's the thing. No one's found shit yet anyways. So they didn't find treasure. They found a hole.
Well, or they say they found a hole. But my thing too is like, was we assume now that was common, but was it? I mean, like you have some maybe retelling of like, hey, it was really common to be told this, but I guess, I don't know if it was.
I guess I'm thinking too, like, I guess I'm thinking like nowadays, a lot of kids are hearing about Bigfoot, right? And maybe one day,
because he's awesome,
and maybe one day a group of kids will find Bigfoot, right? They'll go out into the woods and find a den or something.
They'll knock on trees. They'll stare at a stump.
And in 100 years, someone will be doing a Uber podcast or something, some super techno podcast, and they'll be asking, how did they find Bigfoot? Right? Like, did they have foreknowledge?
See, that's the thing. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm not trying to weight it to the gambler's fallacy. Like, are we self-select? Is it naturally self-selecting? End of story. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, that's something we'll look into more.
Just saying. Or somebody knows more about Dennis McGinnis and has actually history. I can, set my shit straight. Yeah. I don't have a problem. Just ask Rob Christofferson. You just can call me on my drinking of my shard anytime you like.
Anyways, well, that's it for this extra long episode. We made this one extra long to celebrate 10,000 downloads and also to
10,000 plus, bitches.
10,000 plus, and to say thank you to everyone who's listened so far.
Thank you very much.
You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, under the Mad Scientist podcast. Another episode is coming out shortly on the more traditional scientific side of things. And then we'll come back with another roundtable. And so we're going to try to stick to that schedule pretty well, where I think maybe we should adopt maybe we should do 3 a month, where it's 1 full and then 2 roundtables a month or something, or we can like mix and match it as the months go on. I don't really know yet what the perfect plan is for that. We also wanted to give a shout out to Tess Feifel, who is phenomenal. She is the
T5.
Yeah. So Tess is one of the members of the Ark. She's the original member of the Ark. She is the Ark practically.
She is. She's the Rock.
Yeah, she is like the Rock of Astonishing Legends. She is the unheard voice in that podcast. She's phenomenal. And so we just wanted to give her a shout out and say thank you, Tess, for all of the support.
We love you, Tess.
We love you, Tess. We also want to give a shout out though to the really, really good Nightmare on Fear Street podcast, which you can find at their website. So they're available on iTunes as well, as Nightmare on Fear Street by the Ghoulish Fancies. That's on iTunes. And so recently I recorded an episode with them, their 5th episode, which was on the science of goosebumps, which is really cool. They're also on Player FM, and on ghoulishfancies.com. So that's GHOULISH -fancies, FANCIES.com. They're really great, and I totally suggest you give them a listen.
Best name ever.
It's a really good name. Like in the car
we are the Ghoulish Fancies.
In the car today, I was thinking that a really sweet name for a band would be A Man Called Cold. Right? Like,
that's
fucking awesome. Yeah. But I think maybe someone already wrote a song like that, so I'm just like stealing it. Anyways, thank you again for listening to us, for putting up with us for over 2 hours at this point.
Hope you had the Pringles with you.
I hope you had a giant K2 mountain size of Pringles. Thank you again so much for listening. I am Chris Cogswell.
This is Marie Mayhew.
And
thank you.
Thank you again.